Well, hello, that's us. Just gone live now. This is probably the scariest thing I've ever done, so please forgive me if there are any hitches or hiccups. I'm just going to wait for 1 o'clock so that we can start properly. Hopefully there'll be a few people joining us. It's an absolutely cracking day here. I can't believe how lucky we've been. The sun is hot, actually really hot. So yes, I see I've got one person, two people watching. Stephen File, and I'm gonna have to put my glasses on. Charmaine Beckett, hello, Stephen and Charmaine. Nick Pepper is watching. I'm just going to do a name check until I have my glamorous assistant with me to take over the reading of the comments, and I can concentrate on what we're doing. Fiona Scott, hello from Fern, beautiful Fern Farm. They were live just a couple of days ago on Lambathon. Melanie Jacobs from Massachusetts. That's very exciting. Jack David Kozer, a name which I might struggle pronouncing. Francia Samson Tinkleberg. Charmaine Beckett. This is, I don't know if you guys have been watching any of these, but us farmers aren't always brilliant at the techie side of things, and we've all been terrified witless of doing these live videos, but I would say that so far they've gone very, very well, so hopefully I'm not going to screw it up. Alvey Estate, hello James, Alvey Estate. And oh wow, I got the last name pronunciation right in the first try. Not everyone does that. Well hey, if everything goes as well as that, we'll be okay. Wendy Cathcart, Anna Bertram, thank you all for tuning in. So I'm just being joined now by my daughter, Pippa. Hi. Who is going to be my eyes. This means she can read any questions out to me. David Teeps, cloudy in Preston, Lancashire. So Elizabeth Forsyth. Elizabeth, it's a good name. What time is it, Pips? It's 1:01. So we are going to start this live tour. So I would just first of all like to welcome you all. Thank you so much for tuning in and watching. I'm Liz Phillips. I'll just take my glasses off because it's better not to have them. Yeah, so I'm Liz Phillips from Cowden Farm Holidays, and we're based in Stonehaven, which is on the east coast of Scotland, a really beautiful location. We are exactly 7 miles south of Stonehaven, so we're not that far from the seaside, but we're also not that far from hills and mountains, so it's a really lovely spot. We farm 440 acres, which is split between 2 different holdings. There's the home farm, which we're at the moment, where we've got our own house and the farm buildings, and where all the lambing action is taking place. And then we have a second holding, which is, as the crow flies, just a couple of miles away from here, and that's where Cowden farmhouse is. And we have about 250 acres over at Cowden. So we're a family farm. It's me, my husband Clive, daughter Pippa that you've just met, and she'll be featuring a little bit later on, and my son son Callum, not Clive. Oh my goodness, I'm so tongue twisted. Anyway, we on the farm we have 650 breeding ewes, which are all in the process of lambing at the moment. We have 150 replacement ewes to come into the breeding flock next year, and then we have about 15 tups, so it's quite a lot of sheep. And by the time these guys have all finished lambing, we'll have, well, I don't know, my maths are too poor, but we will have a lot of sheep on the farm to work with over the summer. So we also grow about 140 acres of malting barley. So it's quite funny to think that the crops which are going into the ground at the moment could be in your glass of whiskey in 10 years' time, which I always think is quite funny. And then of course at Cowden we also have Cowden Farmhouse, which we run as a self-catering holiday let. So we will just, I'm now going to switch around because I think you've seen more than enough of me. Pips, is there anybody that, I'm sorry, Pippa, any questions so far or any comments which we would like?
Lots of people saying hi though.
Lots of people saying hi.
Thank you all for joining today.
Brilliant, excellent. Okay, well let's have a wee look around. As you can see, the sky, look at the sky, blue. I would love to pretend it's like this all the time, but of course last week we were battling with snow and cold temperatures. We couldn't get anything outside, but this, we have no complaints about this. So what we're looking at here is an experiment which we actually trialled a couple of years ago. These are outdoor straw courts. And we really sort of did it a couple of years ago because we were so tight on space. We just wondered if this might be a good idea. And for these sheep, I should have said we've got North Country Cheviots, and when we go into the shed and speak to Clive, he'll speak a little bit more about the sheep that we have and the breeding and everything. But North Country Cheviots tend to be quite a tough, hardy, fairly wild kind of sheep. And we've found they tend to do better outside. They are much happier outside, they eat well, they tend to stay healthier. So on a day like today, it's easy to see why this is a system that would work well, because it's sunny and beautiful. But actually, oh, question?
Do the sheep lamb outside in these pens?
Yes, so I'll go on a question about do the sheep lamb outside in the pens. I'll go on to that. We'll talk about that in a minute. But I was just going to say, even when it's raining, even when the weather's not that great, the bales which are here give them tremendous shelter, and they just lamb. Yes, to answer the question, they do lamb in these pens, and what they usually do is just find a wee corner under the shelter of a bale, and they have their lambs quite happily, quite the thing. And once that's happened, we pick up the lambs and we take the ewe into the shed where we'll be going in a minute. So we've got them split up into 3 separate groups here. Like many of the other tours that you've been watching, we have them all scanned and we colour mark them according to whether they're having singles, twins or triplets, so that we can feed them accordingly. We don't want a single ewe, a sheep that's going to be having just one lamb, just growing a massive lamb, which she then struggles to have. So they get less food than the twins and the triplets.
Caroline Miller says hi.
Oh, Caroline Miller says hello. Caroline Miller is an incredible person because she is really the brainchild behind, she is the brains behind Go Rural. And it's a tremendous thing. I'll be speaking a little bit more about Go Rural towards the end, but it really is fantastic. So I am now going to very inelegantly climb over the skate, and we'll move into, oops, yeah, there we go. So we're going to move into the sheds and the pens. So just to carry on with the idea of giving them outdoor space, we've got these sheep have access to inside and outside here, and I have to say they do actually prefer being outside. So I'll just skirt around the edge. One of the problems with cataloguing a live lambing is that it is exactly that. It is a live lambing, and you certainly can't plan anything. Clive and I were outside in these sheds until 2 o'clock in the morning because there was an absolute lambing explosion. We didn't actually know where to look first. So I've just realised I meant to speak to Joe outside, but we'll go and speak to Joe in a minute. So yes, when they've lambed, we bring the ewes and the lambs into these pens here. And Pippa, if we move up through here. Right. Oh, okay. Hello, we have a ewe here who has literally just had the first 2 of her triplets. She's expecting another one. Good girl. So Pippa's just going to say a quick word about this.
When they've had their first one, we bring them into this large pen here, and we keep it very clean so they can then have their second or even third if they're having it. So that means that there's not other sheep trying to get their lambs, and then from then on, that's when we then take them into the pens.
Yeah, so we'll maybe see her, I'll just shut the gate actually. We'll maybe see her third one before the tour is out. In fact, I'm pretty sure we will. Right, let's go through here. So these are all ewes which have been penned up with their lambs. They'll be, Pips, how old will these be?
Well, different ages. What's your mum?
Okay, sorry, throwing her a bit of a curveball there. All certainly just a couple of days old. So. Hmm?
You didn't make that clear, I think.
Sorry, I'm not making myself clear. And now getting faces from Pippa. Right, we'll move down here. Lots more sheep, lots more lambs. As I said, we've got 650 ewes, and we're lambing them all inside. They're all lambing here at home in the sheds or in the courts outside. And I would say we're just touching halfway through. We've had them in 2 separate batches. So we brought the first lot in. We knew when they were going to lamb, of course, because they're tupping dates. So we brought them in, and they've been lambing away. And just yesterday, we brought the second lot in. So we were just beginning to see some space in the sheds, but we have filled up very, very quickly. Now then, here we have Caitlin. We are really, really lucky that we have a fantastic team of helpers, because not only is lambing physically exhausting, it's actually mentally exhausting as well. When you've got lots of ewes popping out lambs at the same time and you've maybe got a few problems, it's mentally really hard. So it's quite important that we have a fantastic team for fun. You know, we can sort of relax and have a laugh as well. So we've got really brilliant characters working with us. And as I said, one of these is Caitlin. We'll meet Jo outside in a minute, but Caitlin is Jo's girlfriend. Before she came here to help with the lambing, she had never touched a sheep or a lamb. This was all completely new to her, and she's been brilliant. In the time that she's been here, she's lambed ewes, she's helped, well, she's just done everything. She's been very much part of the whole process. So here she is feeding one of our pet lambs, but I'll just put her on the spot a little bit, and I'm just going to ask her what she's sort of found interesting about it, or what she likes about it, or maybe she doesn't. Maybe I'm shooting myself in the foot here, but I'll just hand her over.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting. Having worked with cattle on Jo's farm, sheep are a lot easier to be around, a lot easier to handle. And one thing I didn't expect as well was the sheep to have such different personalities as well. Like, they're really nice animals to work with. A lot going on.
Brilliant. I actually, when she doesn't think I can see her, I often see her just cuddling a sheep or a lamb, or just sitting down speaking to them all. These little faces here, these are the pet lambs, and I mean every farm will end up with pet lambs, whether that's because they are one of a triplet, in which case we would usually take one lamb away, because a ewe can really only sufficiently feed 2 lambs. She only has 2 teats, so we take one off and feed it ourselves, and as you can see, that goes very well. They like their milk. Anything else to see here? No. Good use of IBCs though. Look, they've got their heat lamp. They can see out. They're very happy. One thing about us farmers, we're very, very resourceful. It's amazing. You know, there is the joke about how many things you can do with a piece of baler twine, and certainly we are generally quite a resourceful crew. So here we have Clive. So I'm just going to hand the mic over to Clive, and Clive can talk a little bit about how it all got started, because I mean 650 sheep is quite a number. How on earth do you reach that point? So I shall hand you over to Clive.
Hi, thank you. Is the camera pointing to me?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So, I didn't have a background in agriculture. My father was in agribusiness for most of his career. And I went to Iceland to get some work experience when I was studying. And when I was there, I started to work with sheep, and I got quite interested in it. And when I came back to Scotland, I decided that I would like to try and start my own sheep flock. And that was about 30 years ago. And it was not time actually, and there was a lot less support for new entrants and so on than there is today, although admittedly it is still tough to get into agriculture. So I managed to come to an arrangement with a friend of mine who had a local farm, that if I bought a small number of sheep and kept an eye on his sheep, I could run them. I could run them with his. So I bought 6 sheep one week, and then I bought 6 sheep the next week, and that was the start of the flock. And then the next year I bought 30. And then now we're up to about 650, and I suppose some of the sheep here are descended from those first sheep that I bought. Of course, I have bought in sheep over the years, mostly from Lairg and Dingwall. So all these sheep nearly all of them are North Country Cheviots, hill Cheviots mostly. I have used various tups over the years. So I've used some North Country Cheviot park tups, hill tups, and we're also running a little experiment this year using some New Zealand genetics. So we're using a tup called a Highlander tup, which is from New Zealand and produced here in the UK by Innovis. And the Highlander tup has some very strong maternal traits, and the idea is to introduce those into the flock to improve what we've already built on, and also they're quite prolific, so what it should do is nudge up their prolificacy. That's how many lambs each ewe will have. So this flock lambs at around 166%, so that means roughly 1.66 lambs per ewe. The Highlander might nudge that up a little bit, so we'll do a little experiment with 50 ewes to see how that works out.
There was a good question just now. Are there any differences? What are the differences between Icelandic sheep and these sheep?
Yeah, no, that's a good question actually. Most of the UK sheep are descended from a mix of some different types of sheep, about 3 kind of types of sheep. One is a very primitive short-tailed sheep, and that's the kind of sheep that you see in Shetland, the Faroes, Norway and Iceland. Then there's a sort of longer-tailed, more conventional kind of sheep, I guess, that people would recognise, and then you've got the downland sheep, that, like the Suffolk, the Oxford Down, heavier sheep from the south of England. So most of the UK breeds are a kind of mix-up of all of those, and of course the horned sheep such as blackface and so on. So the Icelandic is quite a primitive, not in a derogatory sense, but a more ancient breed perhaps, short-tailed, very, very hardy, very fast, and has a very, very fine wool, a little bit like the Shetland wool. But the Cheviot, the North Country Cheviot, its story was it originated in the borders, in the Cheviots, and it moved up north to the north of Scotland into Sutherland and Caithness, where it has developed a stronghold. So that then became the North Country Cheviot. So there is a North Country Cheviot and a South Country Cheviot, and they are an excellent breed in many respects in terms of wool production, meat, hardiness, and all of that, which is the reason that we selected them as the breed that we wanted to focus on.
Brilliant. Good. So we have a few friends watching. Andrew Askew Blaine's watching.
Hi to Andrew.
Hi to Andrew. I do apologise. I really wanted to name call a lot more people, but I have failed miserably. Jack Foster, Judy Prendergast, Rudy Keith, Chrissy Stitt. Hello, everybody. Thank you for watching. So the next thing we do, once we bring the ewes and lambs into their individual lambing pens here, you'll see a little bucket of stuff here. And I'm going to hand you back over to Clive just to say what's going on here. Or in fact, maybe Pippa wants to do it. Yeah, Pippa will explain what we're doing here.
So before we actually do get to the ringing and tagging, when we bring them in the pens, straight away we put on this card here when they were born and how many lambs there are. And for the first 24 hours the lambs are born, we monitor them very closely, as well as you, just to make sure that they are okay after lambing and after being born. So then after 24 hours, once they have got a full belly of milk, and once the lambs are up and quite lively, we will then start to do a process called ringing, tagging and marking. So I'll just nip in the pen now.
I have to say, a slight proud mum moment here. Pippa's only 15, but of course, because of lockdown, because of COVID and the lockdown, last lambing and this lambing, she's obviously been at home. And although she'll cringe when I say it, she has been quite unbelievable. Her ability and knowledge is really second to none. And if any of her teachers are watching, obviously she's doing lots of schoolwork. It's a lunch break, yes. Lambing is an extended lunch break. So, so here she is with a wee lamb, and I'll hold the mic for her, and she can tell you what goes on.
So this lamb has already been tagged, as you can see, and rung. So as you can see, the lamb has got a nice full belly, and it's a nice strong lamb, and the ewe is fine. Her bag of milk is all okay. So these were ready to tag. So this is a wee ewe lamb, which means she's a girl, and as you can see, she's got a pair of tags. She's got a purple one and she has a yellow one. And these are EID tags, so they are electronic, which Dad will show you more in a minute about the scanner. The purple is for the year, so her mum has got orange tags, and that represents the year that her mum was born. And so this is a wee lamb. However, the wethers, which are the castrated males, they don't have a colour. They only have this one tag, which is still electronic, but they don't necessarily need the colour tag because they will not be part of the breeding flock, so it wouldn't really matter. So that's really it, and then they will get a number. So we are on 276 here. The mother gets a number as well. So when they go out into the field, we know exactly which pairs or which trios are which. So now Dad will explain more about the scanner and how we record all the information we gather over the year about the sheep.
Yeah, so we try and record a lot of data about the sheep for two reasons. One is for compliance purposes. We have to be able to account for all the sheep that we are looking after. But the other reason is so that we can try and improve the flock over the years. But also, one very critical reason is that with 650 sheep, you cannot remember each individual. But by recording their data, you can start to treat them again like individuals, because you can record individual information for each one. So it allows us to give them individual treatment, even though we might not immediately recognize which one it is. Some of them we do recognize, of course. So if I give you that, this records data. So I don't know if you can see that. So you can enter lambing details. So this is an opportunity, first of all, for me to scan the ewe. So it's an electronic tag. The tag number comes up. if we had a note of precisely which sire it was here, but it's actually on the colours, so I can do that later, it would also populate that. So then you can see there's a number of pregnancy at scan. So she was scanned to see how many lambs that she had and was going to have. And the reason for scanning is so that we can adjust the feed rate and look after her in a way that's appropriate for a sheep with 2 lambs. If she only had 1, then she would be on a different feed regime. So now that she has lambed, we have the opportunity to add a lamb. So this is where we can put in some details. So because we've tagged the lamb, we can scan it. Okay. So we capture the detail, we select the gender, we select the breed, and this is all the information here. So it's tag number, sex, etc., etc. We can now do that and add the second lamb if we can find it. So this one is a ewe lamb, so we can do that, and that's her data come up. And so that now completes the picture for this sheep. So we've got scan to, live to. If we click here, we should be able to find out some of the history. So she had 2 this year, and she had 1 ewe lamb last year. So that, and then we can also look at her treatment history. So we can, have a look at all the various treatments that she's had and make sure that she's getting the right treatments that's appropriate for her. We can also look at movement, so we know exactly where she's been. So it gives us lots of information to help us look after them as best we can.
It's all clever stuff, and it really, it's brilliant actually. It is really good. We refer to this a lot during the lambing. It's a good system. So we shall move on from the pens. What happens next is the ewes and lambs come into this bulking up area, and it's basically just a large pen. It's got lovely quality haylage there, which we make ourselves. We grow our own hay and haylage. Hello, little lamb. A couple just sleeping there. And the ewes. So the idea with this is, when they're in the little pens, they don't really learn to follow their mums, and it's really important when they go out to the field that they know who their mum is. They recognise the sound of their mum. You see, she's actually looking for her lamb now, and the other one's saying, "That's not mine. Butt out. This is not yours." So they join up. And then once they've done that, we load them into the livestock trailer and we drive them to Cowden. We're obviously not going to cover that bit today, but actually we're on live again this time next week. So next Wednesday, the 21st, I think, we are doing another of these live things, and I'm actually going to do that from Cowden, which will give you a chance to see the ewes and lambs actually out in their fields. We can look at the tops that we use because they're over there, and we can have a wee glance at Cowden farmhouse as well. The countryside there is quite beautiful, even though it's only 2 miles away from here as the crow flies. It's quite different. I mean, here we're in a kind of a basin, really. You can see it's very lovely, but it is a sort of basin, whereas Cowden is it's in a more open location, stunning views. It's really very nice. Now then, I forgot to speak to Joe at the start of this. I really meant to speak to Joe first, and it was really funny because the team said to me, "When you're videoing, what will we do?" And I said, "Oh, just look busy." And we've all been laughing about that because we have been so busy, it's crazy. But anyway, here's Joe, and Joe was absolutely appalled when he realised that this is his 6th year lambing with us. So whilst I would love to believe that Joe comes here for my stunning catering skills at mealtimes, that's probably not actually why he keeps coming. So I'm just going to put him slightly on the spot here. Joe himself actually comes from a big family, farming family. his background is in cattle. So before he came to us 6 years ago, he hadn't worked with sheep, but now, I mean, he's a very, very valued part of the team. And of course, we've loved having Caitlin here as well, so that's been a tremendous bonus. But I am just going to quickly ask Joe, hoping that I'm not too shocked by the answer. Just going to ask Joe what his experience of coming here is.
It's really nice to come and see how another family runs their farm, and it's a fine change from working with cattle all the time at home. And although like sheep can be annoying, they can be quite fun to work with too.
That's brilliant. That's really good. We actually love having Joe here. So even though he went, 6 years, oh my goodness, what am I doing with my life? I do hope that he continues to come, because it's great to have him here. So I think that's us. I have absolutely no idea what time it is. Joe, what time is it? Oh, is it past? Okay, gosh. And I thought I'd struggle to fill the time. Well, so I'm just going to finish up. I'm sure there's something I haven't covered, but anyway, I'm just going to finish up talking a little bit about Go Rural, because obviously I'm doing this, you're watching this through Go Rural, and what is it? Well, I mean, Go Rural is a very rapidly growing group of farmers across the length and breadth of Scotland who have the common function of producing food, whether that's dairy products, meat, fruit, vegetables. That is the common theme. We also run agritourism businesses, and that can be anything from farm cafes, restaurants, 5-star wedding venues, self-catering accommodation, alpaca trekking, and we do there are a lot of varied businesses within the agritourism group. And you may well ask, well, so what? You know, what's the significance of that? But as I said earlier, farmers are quite a breed apart, actually. We tend to have pretty good sense of humour, because to be honest, you have to have one to be doing this job. We're quite hardy, we're quite resilient, we tend to live in lovely places. That's Claudia, a friend of mine, who said she can see Mouldy. And there's my little Moulders, Icelandic horse. Yes, we tend to be quite a fun group of people, and we live in lovely places. So when you go to that farm cafe or self-catering accommodation, it tends to be in a really nice place. And just for the short time that you're there, it sort of gives you a sense of ownership, I suppose, of your time there, and it gives you a tremendous knowledge of the place that you're at. And if this makes any sense at all, I think it is just it just gives you a bit more than just going somewhere that happens to be in the middle of the country. So that's what Go Rural is. Each week of Lambathon, we're running the chance to win a day out on a Scottish farm. It's a competition that Go Rural is running. This week, it's a day out at Newton Farm Holidays in Angus with a farm tour for a family of 4. So if you're interested in taking part in that, or for a chance to win, go to the Go Rural website. Very fancy, shiny new website. It's beautiful. But if you go there, you'll see the details of the competition and you can enter. So I'm just going to close up now by saying thank you very much for watching. I hope you found it interesting. If I said we're on next week, if you join us next week, it'll be quite different. I'll show you our Icelandic horses. I've got 3 horses up there. The one on the left is our wee Shetland. The one in the middle is Pippa's Irish sports pony, and then the one on the right is Mouldy. And Mouldy is an Icelandic horse, of which we have an innumerable, unmentionable number. But you'll see some of those when we go to Cowden next week. So tomorrow, we are back with Gordon and Susie at Craigmaddy Muir, which is in Dumbartonshire, Glasgow. They have 380 lambing ewes. They were on just last week or a couple of weeks ago. So I think you'll be able to tune in tomorrow and see a progress report on their lambing. So, as I say, I hope that you haven't made a fool of myself, and I hope that you found this interesting. I'll just spin it back round. So yes, thank you very much for watching. And if you'd like to know more about what we're doing, we have a Facebook page, Cowden Farm Holidays, and it would be tremendous if you followed us. It would be even more tremendous if you came for holiday with us, ever the chancer. But anyway, thank you very much. I shall say goodbye and hopefully catch up with you later. Thank you very much. Bye bye.